Uzziah's death, Isaiah says he saw the Lord sitting on a throne, lofty and exalted, with the train of his robe filling the temple. And we encouraged everyone this week in our weekly message that you can download, that you can find on all streaming platforms, Roku, Amazon, Google, a few others. You could find us on YouTube. But nevertheless, we want to encourage you to listen to this week's message, Watch the Throne. We are living in a day and age where individuals watch and pay attention and focus and glean on so many things, culture, society, CNN, Fox News, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and we can easily be distracted and lose focus from where our focus should be. As Jesus followers, we encouraged everyone this past week that no matter what the outcome was, because when we actually preached that message, taught that message, the outcome had not been yet made. But we encouraged everyone to watch the throne, no matter what the outcome actually was. You can remain thankful, ladies and gentlemen, and we want to encourage you guys to remain thankful and excited, not about, and I'm not saying don't be excited about if your candidate of choice actually was the victor, or if your candidate of the choice was victim. Listen, like there's still so much for Jesus followers to be excited about outside of the celebratory feelings of my candidate of choice won. And so we are encouraging Jesus followers to pay close attention to not just watching the news and the results of the 2020 election and focusing on that, but more so focusing on the King and his kingdom. And that's being kingdom minded. Being kingdom focused. And again, nothing wrong with celebratory, feelings or celebrating your candidate of choice winning the election. But we want to encourage you to remain focused and to watch the throne. Isn't it amazing? And this is one thing that we discussed this week in the message, that it is amazing how two people can go through the exact same thing and feel differently about the results or the outcomes. And so you have some people, half of America, or maybe more than half of America, who are celebrating, and another portion of America who is mourning. I've seen Christians attacking other Christians. And I'm saying, like, attacking when I believe we should be attempting to show some love. And so again, I want to say we got to watch our attitudes as well in all of this, and not just not watch the news, but watch our attitudes and how we respond to individuals who may have different thoughts from us, different opinions. Like even Christians can have different opinions.
Right.
We have what we have decide fors. Hear me, y'all, and hear me really well. We have decide fors. We have debate fors. We have divide fors. And I think so often we are dividing behind things that can be decided on. As a Christian liberty, I think we are dividing many times on things that we could like debate on,
Right.
and not divide. And so we have to learn how to have differing views from other believers and still not divide the body of Christ by the things that we say, by the things that we do. We must be biblically measured in how we respond to people, and how we respond to culture, and how we respond to things that's going on in our society. So, the encouragement was to watch the throne. Go ahead.
So when we're watching the throne, we find ourselves in a place of being able to discern what we should be debating for. how we should be deciding, and that is where we get the presence, or we get the pleasure of experiencing God. And as you spoke about in the message, when we get a chance to experience God, God's presence is powerful. His presence is powerful. It is protective.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a benefit in us literally watching the throne.
Right. Yeah. So
It's also peaceful. I think I missed that. Did I say peaceful?
yes, I know. I don't know.
Yes,
I don't know.
peaceful.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And we need that. We need peace right now.
definitely.
And the only way we can get that peace is if we focus on the throne.
Yes. And so Isaiah says in Isaiah 6:1, he tells us of his magnitude, the magnitude of his presence. He says that he was sitting on the throne, lofty and exalted, with the train of his robe filling the temple. So Isaiah tells us of the magnitude of God's presence. I think that's where you were going, like
Yes.
the magnitude of God's presence. And this is the reason why we should watch the throne. Because he doesn't just tell us, Isaiah doesn't just tell us of God's position. And so this is the encouragement. Watch the throne, because when you're paying attention to him being enthroned and not your candidate of choice being dethroned or enthroned, but the fact that God, the King of Kings, or God is actually on the throne, then you won't worry, because when you understand who's actually on the throne
And which throne we should be watching.
and which throne we should be watching, and you understand his position. So the Lord was sitting on the throne. That's his place. That is his position. And so God is still enthroned, and we have to understand that our vote cannot, thwart God's plan.
Right.
Our vote cannot thwart like the sovereignty of God, like what God ultimately wants to accomplish in humanity. That's not going to be thwarted. It cannot be negated. And so he shows us his position. He is sitting on the throne, lofty, which tells us the magnitude of his presence. Where is he? He's on the throne. That is where he is, his presence. And he tells us of the magnitude of said presence. And that's
Lofty, grand, big,
Yes.
grandiose. It's so lofty that I don't believe I can find the words to describe just how grand his presence is. I will just say that it covers everything, and I think you shared that it covers everything that we're dealing with. Our past situation, our present situation, our current circumstances. It covers it all.
right. So it is lofty, exalted, and the train of his robe fills the temple. So it's the magnitude of the presence. And so it's personal, and that's what we want you guys to do today. We want you to make God's presence personal today, as you're starting the day off. Because the fact of the matter is, Joe Biden, nor Kamala Harris, the president and the vice president elect, because we respect office. And as Christians, we got to understand it's not about your candidate of choice. It's about respecting office, and not disrespecting the office that a man sits in. And so what we have to realize is that no matter who won, like, God is still enthroned, and we need to make his presence personal in our lives. That's what's so vitally important. Like, his presence needs to be personal in our lives. And we're encouraging you all this morning to make his presence personal in your lives. Because when you make God's presence personal, and again, it's based off of Isaiah 6:1. In the year of King Uzziah's death, I saw the Lord sitting on the throne, lofty and exalted, with the train of his temple robe filling the temple. So again, his position and his presence. Isaiah gives us the magnitude of his presence. Let's make his presence personal in our lives today. Like spend some time allowing his presence to be personal in your individual lives. Don't watch the results. Don't watch the debates. Don't get involved in the debates. Don't get sucked into the frivolous, nonchalant conversations around the water cooler on your places of employment. Like, allow God's presence to be personal today, because when his presence is personal, you can experience the power of God. And with the power of God, you also experience the peace of God. So make his presence personal. Make his presence, or allow God's presence to be personal. Also allow God's presence to be peaceful
and protective.
And so you can experience the power of God underneath the protection of God. So that's the encouragement, man. Don't just watch the results of the election. Don't just watch, the lawsuits that are being filed and claimed and all the things that's going on. Like, literally watch the throne. God is still enthroned. He is still sitting on the throne with his son sitting at his right hand.
And can I just say that the more we influence ourselves with these things, we can actually see how if we shift our focus to watching the throne, the true throne, those things will truly influence the Lord will truly influence our life. And so what Pastor Dre is saying is you'll experience something. And you use that word, and I think that's really big. You'll experience something because of the influx of your focus moving towards the throne rather than to all those other things. And I encourage that we desire to experience him, his presence, his protection, his power. We experience it.
Yes.
But that comes from shifting our focus. You're laughing at Jalen?
No, I'm laughing at Bishop Willard Alexander. Bishop Boo.
Hey, Bishop.
Oh, that's funny.
So we love you guys.
So again, ladies and gentlemen, watch the throne. Don't focus on, and listen, like in context, Isaiah 6:1, there is, understand, when you watch the throne, it allows you to connect to Christ. And when you connect to Christ, you're able to connect to the culture. When you're able to connect to the culture, you're able to connect the culture to Christ. Understand, go ahead and read Isaiah 6, verses 1-8, and you will see that there is a missional nature in that. When you can understand that God is enthroned, when you understand that his presence is personal, peaceful, powerful, and protective, then that's very easy for you to move on this day on behalf of him, because the text says, "Here I am, Lord, send me." This is after he's seen his presence or experienced his presence, allowed his presence to be personal in his life, experienced the peace, the power, and the protection. Then he was able to actually, there's a missional nature to that text. So again, ladies and gentlemen, watch the throne, so we can actually move on behalf of God and not move on behalf of our own political agendas. Let us not politicize the gospel any further, but let's be Christ followers. Let us be effective and fruitful followers of the Lord Jesus Christ on today. So remain thankful, remain excited, remain connected to the King, and not just our King, but remain connected to the kingdom. So again, you guys have a great day. We love you to life. There's nothing that you can do about it. Dre moves.
Shawn moves.
The question that we ask you guys is, are you moving? Why? Because movement is life. Go in peace. Have a blessed and prosperous remainder of your day. I'll holla.
I'll holla back.